it's interesting because I had my interactions with the NBA early because of my holdout. I mean, my holdout with the Mavericks was the longest ever as a rookie because the Mavericks didn't want to pay my contract. And I always thought it was an issue with the NBA because it kind of put a stain on the NBA at the time that this rookie held out, and we were going to do a collusion lawsuit against the NBA because David Stern, we had caught wind that he had told the owners, you can't pay these rookies these kind of contracts. And that's called collusion. So we finally got our deal done, but I always felt there was this cloud hovering over me because of that. And I know, and I've been in meetings as I was part of the union with David Stern. So I got a chance to see him in action, behind the closed doors, behind the veil. And
Can I say something to you? And I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Go ahead.
But the guy that was in charge of the investigation told me, and I'm going to quote him, so there's no misunderstanding here. David Stern was as ruthless and as evil as any mob boss he investigated. So that just goes to tell you what type of individual he was right there. And for him to do what he did, and he was very smart, he was a genius. He was always one step ahead of everybody, and he was one step ahead of the FBI by leaking the whole story to the New York Post.
Your story.
To get that out in the public so that I wasn't able to, not that I wanted to, but wire up and tape somebody else because, and I know you'll probably laugh when I say this thing, Dick Bavetta, for Christ's sake, he did whatever he wanted to do on the floor.
I love Dickie, man.
He said he was on game 6s to force game 7s. And
what?
I mean, it was unbelievable.
He seemed like somebody's grandfather out there because I got a chance. I was fortunate. I played with a lot of the old school officials. Okay, so right. I got a chance to kind of see the old school, the old guard kind of ushering the new guard and then the newer guard. And the older officials, to me, I mean, whatever they were doing, they were doing. But it seemed like we were able to have, even though they may have their ways, we had conversations with these guys. They had conversations with us. Sometimes we didn't like it, sometimes we didn't. But don't tell me Dick Bavetta. Come on, man.
Oh, my God. Let me tell you something. Dick Bavetta, he did more things in games that you could, if you go look at his history, I mean, he screwed Portland in that game 6 or game 5 with the Lakers. He screwed Sacramento Kings in that game 5 in L.A. that
it always
6,
comes
that
up.
Famous game in 2002. I mean, Sacramento should have a ring on their finger, and because of what he did, thinking that he was doing the right thing, forcing a game 7 for the league was the best thing to do. And, and even David Stern, we talked about the arrogance of the guy. On national TV, I'll never forget, they said to him, what would be your ideal matchup in the NBA Finals? And this guy has the balls to say the Lakers versus the Lakers and smiles. I mean, he wanted to do what was ever going to bring that global attention to the league, which was going to really bring, the bottom line up. And he really didn't care how the games were officiated or how they looked.
But Tim, let me ask you this.
Game 6 and 7.
But let me ask you this. Okay, say an official favors a team. Is that coming from him personally or is that coming from higher?
I think what it does is this is what they used to do. Say there was a playoff game and a team was up 2-0.
Right.
And I write about this in my book. A famous Houston-Dallas series. I forget what the year was, but Houston had won the first 2 games in Dallas. Okay, so now we go to Houston and I'm on game 3.
Wait. Was that Tracy McGrady, Yao Ming? No.
Yes.
Was that it? Okay.
Yao Ming was the target.
Okay.
So now we're in the locker room and somebody from the league office comes in and says, hey, listen, we want you to crack down on Yao Ming setting screens in the post, traveling in the post, and 10 things and maybe 1 or 2 things against Dallas. And we left that meeting saying, holy shit, they want Dallas to win because Cuban was complaining. And for whatever reason, they didn't want a sweep and they didn't want Houston to win the next 2 games. Well, Dallas wins the next 2 games in Houston and ends up winning in 7 games. And Van Gundy absolutely blows a gasket because he gets word about what the league came in and did starting in game 3 of that season series. And he ended up getting fined $100,000, one of the biggest fines ever. So everybody knew, from that standpoint that it was going on. It was just, you hoped it wasn't going against you.
Yeah, I remember that series because I was in Houston 04, 05,
right.
05, 06 before I went to Phoenix, but that was before they got to that. I remember watching, I was traveling and doing something. I remember watching that series, and it was some things going on, in that series that kind of had my head scratching a little bit. But, as a player, you don't, again, this is how I think. I can't talk about every player. Always thought the purity of the game was the purity of the game. You go play it. Yes, you're going to have some, conflicts with the officials and, some biases. But at the end of the day, the players win the game or lose the game. And in some cases, unfortunately, that's not the actual case, And the theory that the officials control the games and everybody's outside talking about it, you want to dispel that. But what you're saying is that there are times where the influence from upstairs basically trickles down on the floor and does have an effect on the game.
No doubt. And in that situation, let's just say, I'm a younger referee. This, I believe it was a second round playoff game. I want to get to the third round, right? So I'm in refereeing a playoff series, and I'm getting graded by this guy that's coming in and telling you what to do out on the floor that night. You're going to go above and beyond and do what he's telling you to do because you want a great grade. You want to go to the next round of the playoffs, and you want to make another, $30,000. So of course, you're going to do what he says, and he's the one putting the grades in. So, whatever he tells you to do, you're going to do it.
Check out new episodes of The Jim Jackson Show every Thursday. Watch on the Rich Eisen Show YouTube page. Follow the show on Instagram @Jim Jackson Show, or listen wherever you get your podcasts.